Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going beyond just the bricks and mortar of property ownership.
Hmm,
We want to explore the hidden mechanics, the rules that really govern your living space or your investment.
that's right. Think about it. You find a place you love, maybe an apartment, maybe an investment property. You're ready to buy.
Yeah.
But underneath that surface appeal, there's this whole layer of, let's call them rules of engagement,
Yeah.
how things actually run.
Exactly. We're talking about share block schemes and sectional title ownership, two quite different ways properties are managed, particularly here in South Africa.
hmm And lots of people get the basic idea, okay, one is owning shares, the other is owning the unit itself.
Right.
But what often gets missed is the nitty-gritty, the operational blueprints. How are decisions really made? Who holds the power? How do meetings work? How are votes counted?
And where are all those important records kept?
Yeah.
Crucial stuff.
Absolutely. So our mission today is really to demystify these systems for you. We'll unpack how directors or trustees get nominated, what makes a meeting valid, the quorum rules, and importantly, the voting procedures. AGMs, special meetings, even those behind-the-scenes board meetings.
It always sounds good. Let's dive into the first model then, share block schemes. Remind us again here, you're buying shares in a company.
That's it, shares in a company, and those shares give you the right, the exclusive right, to use a specific part of the building, a flat, an office, whatever it might be.
So it's fundamentally a corporate structure.
Yeah, it really is. Which means its governance has that distinct corporate flavor. It's heavily shaped by the Share Blocks Control Act of 1980.
That act really sets the rules, doesn't it?
It does. It regulates how these schemes have to be run. And that corporate structure, well, it defines those rules of engagement for everyone involved.
Okay, so thinking about that corporate structure,
Yeah.
the directors, they're key. How do they actually get nominated and what do their meetings look like? What are the rules there?
Right. Well, the Act gives non-developer members. So the people who aren't the original developer, some pretty specific rights here. Real power, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah. If there are 10 or fewer non-developer members, they get to appoint at least one director. If there are more than 10, they get to appoint at least two.
Okay, so there's guaranteed representation.
Exactly. And the company has to make sure these appointments happen.
Yeah.
And here's a key protection for you as a shareholder, the developer. They can't even vote on removing a director appointed by those non-developer members.
Wow, okay. That's a significant check on the developer's power.
It really is. It protects the voice of the ordinary shareholders right on the board.
So even before we talk about voting on issues, the actual makeup of the board is carefully structured. That's quite detailed.
It is. Now, for the directors' meetings themselves, for a meeting to even be official, to have what's called a quorum.
Meaning enough people present to make decisions.
Exactly. That quorum must include the director or directors appointed by the non-developer members.
Yeah.
Their presence is required.
So they can't just hold a meeting without them.
Not initially. If those specific directors aren't there within half an hour of the scheduled start time, the meeting gets adjourned. Pushed back.
Okay.
It has to be rescheduled. Not less than 5 days, not more than 14 days later. But if at that second attempt they're still not there within half an hour,
Then what happens? Can they just never meet?
no, then the directors who are present finally constitute the quorum. So it balances representation with, the practical need to get business done, prevents things grinding to a halt indefinitely.
That makes sense. A practical solution.
And one more safeguard on director appointments.
Mm-hmm.
If the company's rules try to give someone the right to appoint a majority of the directors,
Mm-hmm.
that rule is legally void. Unless that person also personally guarantees all the company's debts and financial obligations.
So they have to put their money where their mouth is, essentially.
Pretty much. It stops someone having control without having financial skin in the game.
Okay, that's a strong protection. So directors handle the day-to-day, but what about the really big decisions, the ones involving all the shareholders, the members? How do those meetings and the voting work?
Right, the shareholder meetings. In a share block, the voting power is generally quite straightforward. One share, one vote. Every share carries the same weight.
So your influence is directly tied to how many shares you hold.
Correct. Now, for a really big decision, like converting the whole scheme from share block to sectional title,
That sounds like a massive change.
it is. That process can get started in two ways. Either at least 30% of the shareholders, by number, not value, formally ask the company to do it, or the directors themselves decide to propose it.
And then how does it get approved? What's the threshold?
It needs serious buy-in. It's approved either by a special resolution, which has its own definition under the Companies Act,
Okay.
or there's an alternative. You need 50% in number of the shareholders with voting rights, and those shareholders must collectively hold at least 30% of the total votes. So it's a dual requirement.
What does a special resolution usually involve in this context?
Generally, for a special resolution, you need at least 25% of the total votes represented at the meeting. That's the quorum for the vote. And then you need a 75% majority vote from those present and voting.
Right. So definitely not a simple majority. It needs broad agreement for such a fundamental change.
Absolutely. And it's similar for other major financial decisions. Like if the company wants to take on more debt, increase its loan obligations, or encumber its assets.
Meaning using the building as security for a loan, that sort of thing?
Exactly. Putting a charge or liability on the property. For that, you need a resolution approved by at least 75% in number of the non-developer members who have voting rights.
Ah, specifically the non-developing members again.
Yes, and those non-developer members must collectively hold at least 75% of the total votes held by all non-developer members.
Wow, that's a very high bar, specifically protecting the residents from the company taking on big debts without their overwhelming consent.
It's a very strong protection. And all the strict notice rules and registration requirements for special resolutions under the Companies Act apply here, too. It underscores how serious these decisions are.
Okay, with all this corporate machinery, where do you actually find the key documents, like the agreement that says you can live in your specific unit or the financial records?
Good question. Copies of all the signed use agreements, the documents outlining your right to occupy, and any changes to them, they have to be kept by the share block company, either right there at the property itself or whatever address they've registered with the Registrar of Companies.
Okay, so usually accessible.
Yes. And the directors also have to keep proper accounting records for the levy fund, showing all the money coming in, all the money going out. These have to be in an official language.
And what about records related to loans the company might have?
Those are kept separately. Specific accounting records and financial statements for the company's loan obligations are kept at its registered office. They need to be balanced at least every 6 months and audited annually by the company's auditor.
And that auditor reports to?
They send a report to both the Registrar of Companies and the company itself. So there's oversight and transparency built in.
Right. Okay, let's shift gears now. Sectional title. This feels quite different because you actually own your unit, right?
That's the core difference.
Yeah.
You own your specific section, the apartment, the townhouse, directly. Plus, you own an undivided share in the common property.
Like the gardens, pool, hallways.
Exactly. All the shared bits. And here, the rules aren't set by a company board in the same way. They're set by the body corporate.
Which is?
Basically, all the unit owners acting together, collectively.
So it's more democratic, maybe? How does that direct ownership translate into, actually running the place day to day,
Right.
electing leaders, making decisions?
It is generally more democratic, yes. All the owners of sections automatically make up the body corporate. They are the ultimate authority. But for day-to-day management,
They elect people.
yes. At the annual general meeting, the AGM, the owners elect trustees. Think of them as the executive committee for the scheme.
Okay, like a managing committee.
Precisely. They handle the day-to-day running, the control, administration, management. They then hold their own trustee meetings to conduct the body corporate's business.
And how do the trustees make decisions in their meetings?
Usually by a simple majority vote of the trustees present and voting. Each trustee gets one vote, if it's a tie.
Casting vote for the chair.
Typically, yes. The chairperson gets a casting vote. The only exception is if there are only 2 trustees, then a casting vote wouldn't make sense.
Makes sense. Now, what about remote meetings? Can trustees make decisions if they're not physically together? We're all used to Zoom calls now.
Or absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very common. Trustees can pass resolutions in writing, basically circulating a document for everyone to sign off on within a set time.
Okay.
And they can definitely hold remote meetings, phone, video conference, whatever works. But there are rules for those to be valid. Well, the meeting tech has to be accessible to everyone entitled to attend. Everyone needs to be able to communicate with each other during the meeting. And the chairperson has to be reasonably sure they can confirm who is actually participating.
Right, so you can't just dial in anonymously for a big vote.
Exactly. Got to ensure it's properly conducted.
What about those special levies we sometimes hear about? Unexpected costs. How do trustees handle those?
Yeah, those can crop up. If there's an unforeseen but necessary expense that wasn't budgeted for, say, a major pipe bursts or the roof needs urgent repair,
Right.
the trustees can raise a special levy to cover it. They do this by passing a written trustee resolution. It allows them to act quickly on urgent matters without needing a full general meeting of all owners.
Okay, that makes sense for emergencies.
And similarly, they can decide to charge interest on overdue levies, again, based on a written trustee resolution, up to the maximum rate allowed by law.
So the trustees handle the operational side, the day-to-day, the urgent stuff. But the big power, the ultimate decisions, rest with the owners in the body corporate meetings.
That's right. The body corporate meetings, AGMs, or special general meetings, SGMs, are where the owners exercise their collective power.
And how does voting work there? You mentioned something called a participation quota, or PQ. How does that influence things?
Ah, the PQ. This is absolutely central to sectional title governance. It's quite different from the one vote in share block.
How so?
Your vote's value, when calculated by value, is determined by your participation quota. And the PQ itself in residential schemes is usually calculated based on your section's floor area as a percentage of the total floor area of all sections in the scheme.
It's a bigger flat, bigger PQ.
Generally, yes. And that PQ does two key things. It determines your share of the levies, your contribution to the running costs, and it determines the weight of your vote when decisions are made based on value.
Okay, so bigger unit, bigger, say, in value-based votes, and you pay a bigger share of the costs. That seems logical.
It does create a direct link. Now, based on this PQ, there are different types of resolutions owners can pass.
Different levels of agreement needed.
Exactly. Most routine decisions, approving the annual budget, electing trustees, they just need an ordinary resolution.
Which is?
Simple majority. Over 50% of the votes, calculated by PQ value, of those present and voting at a general meeting.
Okay, standard majority rules for everyday stuff. What about bigger decisions?
For more significant things, you need a special resolution. Think major changes or commitments.
Like what kind of things?
Authorizing someone to extend their section, appointing an executive managing agent to run the whole scheme instead of just trustees, or changing the scheme's conduct rules, the day-to-day behavioral rules.
And what's the requirement for a special resolution?
It's tougher. You need approval by at least 75% of the votes, calculated both by value, PQ, and by number. So 75% of the owners voting.
Both thresholds.
Yes, of those represented at the general meeting. Or, alternatively, you can get it done by written agreement from members who hold at least 75% of all votes, again, both in value and number.
So a much higher level of consensus needed.
Definitely. And then there's the highest level, the unanimous resolution.
Unanimous sounds like everyone has to agree.
Pretty much. This is reserved for the most fundamental changes. Things like selling off part of the common property, maybe a piece of the garden, or changing the core management rules that dictate how the scheme is governed.
Okay, huge decisions. How is unanimity achieved?
Two ways. Either everyone votes in favor at a meeting where at least 80% of all votes, again, both value and number, are present or represented. That's a very high quorum requirement itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or you get a written agreement signed by literally every single member of the body corporate.
Okay, that's about as high a bar as you can get. Protects the fundamental nature of the scheme.
Absolutely. It ensures that the core structure and assets aren't changed without essentially everyone being on board.
And just like with trustees, can owners attend these AGMs or SGMs remotely?
Yes, they can. Same conditions apply. The technology must allow everyone access, enable communication, and let the chairperson verify who's who. It really helps participation, especially for owners who might live elsewhere.
Good to know. Finally, for sectional title, where are the key governing documents kept? The plans, the rules?
The registered sectional plans, the official map of the sections and common property, are held at the local deeds registry's office. You can also usually get them from the local surveyor general.
Okay, deeds office for the plans. What about building plans?
Good point. Building plans, like architectural drawings, those are typically with the local municipality. Different place.
Got it. And the rules, management and conduct rules.
Those used to be lodged at the deeds office, but now they're lodged with the chief ombud, the community scheme's ombud service for approval and filing.
Okay, chief ombud.
But importantly, the body corporate itself must keep copies of all its rules. They have to make them available for owners to inspect at meetings and provide copies if an owner requests them, including any amendments. Transparency is key.
So pulling this all together, for you listening, whether you're learning or thinking of buying, it's clear these two systems manage shared property very differently underneath the surface.
Hugely different rules of engagement. Understanding them is like having the proper user manual for your property investment or home.
Yeah.
Because in a share block, the control feels more, well, corporate, doesn't it? Directors make a lot of the calls. guided by the acts, and your influence comes via your shares and those specific rights to appoint some directors.
I'm more indirect, maybe.
Whereas in sectional title, it's much more directly democratic, wouldn't you say? Power rests with the owners through the body corporate. And those different voting thresholds, ordinary, special, unanimous, and the impact of your PQ, I mean your individual vote and your neighbor's votes, really shape the community's decisions.
So it really raises that question for you, the listener.
Yeah.
What kind of involvement do you want? How much direct control versus a more corporate style suits you?
Exactly. Which structure feels like a better fit for how you want to engage with your property community?
Fascinating stuff. We've really unpacked those intricate rules of engagement today for both share block and sectional title.
Yeah, from quorum rules protecting non-developer directors and share blocks to the way your PQ shapes your vote and levies in sectional title. Knowing these details really changes how you look at property ownership, doesn't it?
It really does.
It just highlights that owning property, especially shared property, it's not just about the four walls of the garden. It's about understanding and maybe participating in the whole governing framework around it.
So next time you're looking at a property listing, maybe think beyond the square footage and the view.
Consider those hidden power dynamics. How are decisions made? What's your say? It could really shape your whole experience as an owner down the line.
That brings us to the end of today's discussion on share block schemes, meeting procedures, and voting structures versus sectional title ownership procedures and voting in meetings. We hope you found it informative and useful as you navigate the world of property investment and ownership.
Remember, while we aim to provide clarity and insight, this content is for educational purposes only. Be sure to seek personalized guidance from a qualified property specialist for your unique circumstances. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it, and don't forget to leave your questions and comments. We're always keen to explore new topics and dive deeper in future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and empowered.